Well, watching, welcome back. Okay, for Sunday this week, I want to do something just a little bit different. I want to address a problem I've had with my dyno, and I know it is an issue for many Harley riders. It seems intermittently, and that is the one of brake lights hanging on. That's when you apply the brakes, you take your hand off the foot pedal, take your hand off the lever, but the brake light stays on. That's all bad, that's pretty dangerous, and it's a pretty straightforward fix. It's just maintenance based as far as I can tell. So I'll show you what actually happens, because I'm having the problem right now, and a way that I choose to fix it on this bike that works very well for me. Welcome back. Well, I'll show you the symptoms first. Ignition on, rear light operates normally. Apply the brakes in the normal way, riding up the road. Brake light comes on, let the brakes go. Brake light stays on. And that's where it's bad. That isn't correct, and you'll fail an MOT for it, and it's pretty dangerous as well. So obviously your brake light's got to go off when you let the brakes go. It goes off if I push the lever forward, then it goes off, but if I apply the brakes again, it still stays on. And that's bad. So we're going to fix that today. It is related to something up here in the master cylinder, because obviously nothing to do with the rear. If I pull that forward, the rear works perfectly well. That's not an issue. It's definitely in the front. It's staying on. Not all the time either. So it's intermittent, and I must make sure it's fixed. So turn that off, and let's have a little look up here inside the master cylinder and find out precisely what's in there and what could be hanging on or dragging or causing a problem. Let's have a look inside. Okay, we've got two components here taking place, and they operate and bolt together. You've got the switch block itself, that's this section, and you've got the brake master cylinder, which is the clamp here. So first things first, just going to take a Torx bit, T25, and just going to loosen off the switch block. Literally, just going to back it off a little bit. Not going to take the screws out, just going to back them off so there's a bit of space, like that, and it moves around. Then we take the venerable T27, I'm going to take these screws out, and I'm going to remove this clamp completely and take it off, so we'll have a little look inside here. Okay, alright, so have a look inside. That's the idea. And as you can see, that's a bit stiff. There's kind of no snap to that. See there, the lever pushes inwards, pushes this plunger into the master cylinder, and that's what does the braking. And when you let the lever off, and that comes all the way out, this little tab here pushes on the switch inside there, and that turns the brake light off. So it's obviously this isn't coming right the way out, because that's a little bit stiff. And in there, just get a little pointer in there. This is a rubber dust boot, or a little dust gaiter around there, and they get gunged up and dry. So we're going to get some gunk in there to clean it, and put a little bit of rubber lube in there and free that off so it's moving in and out nicely, and get a little bit of snap, because that is horrible and a bit chewy and stiff and sticky at the minute. It hasn't got any nice sort of snap to it, which it should have. So first thing, so I can get in there, take the circlip off, pull the pin out, take the lever out of the way. So to get that, you've got these tiny little circlips. Can you see that, clothespin? Tiny little circlip there. It's so weeny that most of the time we haven't got a circlip plier to get hold of it, because it really is a specially small one. So all I do is get a little tiny screwdriver underneath it, and like that, just flip it off. Unfortunately, look at this, look, down here, down. It landed straight there on the footboard. So place it on the footboard safely so you don't lose it. Be careful it doesn't flick in your camera girl's eye.
Nearly got me.
Nearly got you, right. And then once that's out of the way, just push that pin out. And once the pin's out of the way, the lever comes clear. Simple. And it's nice and lubricated because I keep it that way. Nice loads of anti-seize in there. But I'm going to just see why this little plunger in here is stiff and sticking. It's probably because that little rubber boot is dry. So let's get that washed out first of all with some GT85. Just going to pop that in there around that joint. And then with the little screwdriver, just lever it back so that stuff goes in around there, all around that dust boot inside. Careful not to rip it or anything. It's quite tough. You won't hurt it as long as you're gentle. And then I'm going to plunge that in and out. Give it a little twist as well. This is the back end of the ram. Inside here, this master cylinder, there's a little piston inside there with 2 seals in it. And as you press that in, you press the fluid down the line and that operates the brake. So that's the back end of it. And it's just not retracting back out because there's a spring inside there. And as you let the brakes go, the spring forces this rod back to its rest position. Unless, like this case, it's not forcing all the way out due to it being a little bit stiff. It's getting better. Right, there you are. Can you hear that? That's already better. Look at that. Already that's coming out further now. Now that's now come out about probably 2 or 3 mil further than it was just now. So just working that in and out, freeing it up. Now I'm not sure whether there's any dust in there or something. I mean, I ride this all the time in all weathers, this bike, so it's not, I don't shy away from the wet weather, and I think it could be, possibly it's just winter, you know, literally we've had a bad, horrible wet winter. It could be that, could be a number of things. But work it in and out as much as you can. There it is, look at that. You see that happen? That was horrible and stiff just now. And that's now springing back nicely. Now that spray lubricant that I've put in there to sort of clean it and free it all off, that's not good enough long term. That will work for now, but it will dry away quite quickly. So I'm going to do something a bit more permanent with this. I'm going to use a standard red rubber grease. Pop a little dollop on the bench. There it is. Now you can use what works for you, honestly. I'm not suggesting you use any particular product here whatsoever. In there, because that is rubber against metal, and anywhere that rubber rubs against metal, it's got a possibility to drag when it gets dry, and that can wear the rubber and drag on the metal and stop it retracting like it is doing. There we are, it feels lovely now. Nice and smooth. Even the screwdriver going in there now, in that little gap, it just slips round. Now, just before I get any flaming in the comments, I'm not sticking the screwdriver in beyond the circlip. Underneath this rubber boot there's a little circlip. Take the circlip out and then the real work goes on down inside, the proper seals and everything else. They're nowhere near danger. This is on top of the circlip, you get this little rubber dust boot, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just cleaning out underneath it with some GT85 and a bit of rubber lube round inside that boot, just to keep the water out and to keep it nice and soft and lubricated so it moves in and out. And if I go, that's nice, that springs in and out much more freely now. So I'm going to wipe away the excess and reassemble it. Okay, as you can see in there, a little red tide line of the rubber lube around it, so you can see how much that's flipping in and out now. It's about half that distance, and you can hear the lever banging against the clevis now. That's lovely. It was all stiff and chewy before, causing the brake light to hang on. Definitely gonna be better. Job done. Right, let's get it on the bike. Before you install it, just check your actual brake light switch itself, which is that one. Make sure it's flipping in and out nice and freely with no stiffness, no chewiness or anything. It's all working properly. You see that there? A little notch there going into its keep. Now another little point too, whilst you're at it, if you're going to take all this off, it doesn't hurt to just pop a little bit of anti-seize on these bolts. These are a steel bolt into an aluminium thread, so you get that white dusty corrosion, galvanic corrosion on there, which can cause them to jam in place and make them, so when you screw them in, because these are cast metal blocks, they're not plastic like the Japanese ones. So what I always do, works for me, a little bit of anti-seize on the end of the bolt, and that stops it from corroding in place. And that kind of maintenance is something that you'll thank yourself for later on when you come to take this off again. That actually, there it is, look, that white stuff on the end, that's the galvanic corrosion, which eventually will seize it in place, cause problems. So just a little bit of anti-seize on the end, pop them back in. Future maintenance. Right, there we are, quick test. Perfect, there we are, working every time. Excellent. Now that sort of thing, it's just the way Harleys are sometimes. They're a little bit agricultural and you have to keep these things checked, but that's fixed. A simple fix, a little bit of housekeeping, like I said, it's just housekeeping maintenance. If you keep on top of it, it's absolutely fine. So there we are. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments box underneath. I'll try my best to answer them, but if you're not sure, if you've got a breaking fault in any way with your bike, and you're not sure about it yourself or you're not confident, then take it to the dealer or a mechanic that you trust and they can fix it for you, because it's very, very important. It's the first thing you must take care of. Always make sure your brakes are working, and you should find that sort of thing on your pre-ride check before you take the bike out every single time, shouldn't you? We always check that every time we ride, don't we? Oh yes, we do. There we are. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, ride safe. Enjoy your weekend. See you next time.